The first thing I'm curious about is why newspapers?
Why newspapers? So it does seem a little bit like a small issue in terms of climate change and newspapers. They've been around for ages, but that's part of the reason, I think, is because free newspapers are actually very new. We've always had newspapers that people have read whilst commuting and day to day, but you've never had such a mass distribution of something which you haven't had to pay for. And as soon as you don't pay for something, as an owner of it, you then completely your use of it completely changes. So that's why we see something being thrown around carriages, because if it has no value for that person, then they don't care how it's disposed of. And also, out of all the issues that affect climate change, I thought it's one thing that I could tackle myself, or with a few people, but on a local scale. I'm not going to be able to stop polar ice caps melting, but I'm able to start getting people to recycle free newspapers.
So where does the inspiration come from?
For the campaign, just being a commuter, like this is people have asked me quite a lot, like how did this come around? It was just literally travelling on tubes and buses and seeing these papers everywhere, and just thought, A, it's litter, it's not particularly nice, but B, we recycle at home and it's really, really simple and easy thing to do. I'm pretty sure that bus companies and train companies aren't recycling. I wonder what happens to them. And then it just took a little bit of digging to find out the whole scale of the issue. So like 1.7 million papers are printed every day. That's a huge amount of paper. It's enough to cover Portugal twice in like landmass wise. If it's not being recycled, then it must have a massive climate change or carbon emission impact. The other greatest challenge has been convincing people that leaving a paper for someone else to pick up, although it is nice and it's reusing, it's not ensuring that something's being recycled. And therefore you're not ensuring if you're having a positive impact on the environment or a negative one. And people have been very sceptical of that message, so it's been really trying to convince people of that argument.
How did you go about convincing someone?
Mainly just through talking to them. I think the main issue regarding the free newspapers in London as an environmental issue is that no one's actually talked about it. People constantly talk about the impact that free newspapers are having on the quality of reporting and the quality of news coverage, but no one's talking about actually the use of resources that it represents when we can access free news on the internet so much easier, and now that we have, like, everyone's got Blackberries and iPhones, etc., that actually we can access news on the move quite easily. So it's just engaging with the first time that their actions does have an impact, and people pick up, say, an Evening Standard on the way home now and read it and then dump it. They're tired, they don't want to have to feel guilty or conscious about another small action, which is what people are getting all the time. So it's been trying to make the message as positive as possible, and I've done that by trying to look at creative ways to recycle, or creative ways to look at recycling, as opposed to saying you're not recycling, you're killing polar bears.
How do you go about gauging the impact of your campaign? Do you think that you've changed attitudes?
This has been this is probably the hardest thing that I've struggled with on a personal level, is I don't know how to quantify my impact, and that's one thing I feel the campaign possibly has failed at, or which is why I'm going to try and keep going, because I don't think I've hit the nail on the head by any means. I don't think I've really convinced that many people. I've been referenced in a few articles by bigger newspapers whenever the issue of free newspapers come up, and that's been great to see that obviously it's created some pressure. But at the moment it just feels like I'm a pressure group that's talking directly to the free newspapers themselves and not engaging consumers, and I've got to really decide whether focusing on consumers is the best thing, or actually it's just really still focusing on the industry itself and working with inside it. And then I guess that also comes down a little bit to, do I want to be known for my work personally on a larger scale, or am I just happy seeing the result? I'm just happy seeing the result, but so far I haven't found that perfect combination yet. What other highlights have I had? I think being able to educate a lot of people and talk to a lot of people.
Sorry to interrupt. Can I just see your permit?
One of the major casualties of the credit crunch has been print media. Is this something that you're happy about?
No, I'm not happy about the casualty of the print media. I'm not against people reading newspapers or free newspapers, regardless of what they are. All I'm for is people recycling them after and being responsible consumers. It's that whole consumer responsibility that I really care about.